Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of The Man from Nowhere, a Korean action thriller from 2010. Tae-sik is a quiet man running a pawn shop. So his only friend is a little girl, So-mi, who lives in the same neighborhood. Now her mother is a go-go dancer and a heroin addict, and she steals a large pack of heroin that's being sold at a bar where she works, and she hides it in a camera bag, and she pawns it to Tae-sik at the pawn shop without his knowledge, really. Now, her action attracts the attention of a local crime lord who, asks his boys to go looking for this missing heroin. So they eventually cross paths with this guy in his pawn shop, and they start tangling, and they soon realize that this dude is a deadly badass who will stop at nothing to protect the little girl who has become involved in this because of her mother's actions. So the plotline in this, on its surface, is pretty generic. It's one of those Korean films that could be seen as like partially copying other films for its premise. In this case, Leon the Professional, possibly. But The Man from Nowhere is so good that it rises above the pack and is memorable in its own right. Now, if you're not familiar with this lead actor, Bin Won, you might assume by his looks he's just a pretty boy actor. But you would be completely incorrect in that assumption. This dude has got serious acting chops. He's charismatic. He convincingly portrays a quiet badass very well. He's also very good at expressing strong emotion, so he can really sell a dramatic scene very well. His casting in the lead role of the Man from Nowhere automatically elevates this film. It's just perfect casting. And especially if you want a dude right around his age, His career highlights are probably this film, Mother, Tae-sik, and Guns and Talks. And I've seen his more popular K-drama, Autumn in My Heart, which was also quite good. But that's most of his filmography, really. And this man has not acted since 2010. Since this film, he has not returned to acting, which is a real shame, given his acting ability. Now, from what I've read online, it's like a big mystery what the heck happened to this freaking guy. Apparently, from what I've read, he's just really picky at choosing film roles. There's been times where, he looks for stuff. Maybe he'll get this script and he doesn't like it. Or, something will fall through in the production, or he'll have creative differences with the producers, whatever. But I'm hoping someone convinces this guy to come back. Because the industry misses him, and he's still actually very popular in his home country, apparently. So I'm sure if he did come back, it would be like one of the premier films of the year just to watch, just because this dude came back. This is how big this dude is. So, and as if that casting weren't good enough, the little girl in this film is played by Sae-ron Kim, who is an incredibly talented young actress. I remember seeing her first film role in A Brand New Life soon after it first came out, before this film, and I was like blown away by her acting ability. So between that film and this one, she really shot up the popularity charts as well, and she's still active in the industry. So both leads in The Man from Nowhere infuse a lot of emotion and heart into this film, elevates it above the typical action flick. Because I can imagine a lot of actors just coming in here and it's just like a normal type thing, but because they're in this, it elevates it for sure. Even their first scene in the film, they don't get a lot of scenes together with what happens in the film, but early on, their first scenes in the film, it's great. This little girl's constantly nagging this dude, and it almost feels like he doesn't want her around, but he kind of likes her. You know what I mean? It's you get kind of that dynamic. There's some comedy in there. She's chatting him up, and so within the opening 10 minutes, you're like, dude, you could tell this movie's gonna be good. You can just tell. You'll also notice Do-won Kwak in this, but he only has like a small supporting role, so don't get excited that he's going to have a big role. Now again, there's not a lot of action set pieces in this film. In fact, I still question whether or not this should be considered a thriller instead of an action film. Or it's kind of both, right? But which one is it more of? Is it more of an action film or a thriller? I keep going back and forth in my mind. In a lot of cases early on, you only see like the after effects of the violence or the action instead of the actual action or violence itself. That changes gradually as things progress. Eventually you get your first legit fight, like in a dance club, outside of the short intro at the beginning. you get this dance club bathroom fight scene. Now, Korean fight scenes, they're not going to be as cleanly shot and edited as like a Hong Kong fight scene or a contemporary Indonesian fight scene. They're going to use more editing. The editing's going to be tighter. You know what I mean? There's going to be more camera angle changes, kind of in a Hollywood style. But, and I do wish that the edits in the bathroom fight were spaced out a bit more. They're a little bit more noticeable in that scene. But I think this problem is mostly corrected by the time you get to the finale. And there's a knife fight near the end of this film that's very nicely shot and edited. And it's actually very impressive in its choreography and its violence and brutality. So, again, a lot of the scenes in this film are almost like thriller scenes. You get some chases, some short tangles and confrontations. But, like, there's 2 highlight fights, and the last one is legit. And, yeah, so it's good stuff. Good stuff. Now, some of the violence in this film, just be aware, it gets a little intense. All right, it's a Korean thriller. If you're familiar with Korean thrillers, they can get pretty intense in their violence. This isn't excessive. This isn't I Saw the Devil type of excessive in its violence, but there are some bits of bloody violence in this. There are 1 or 2 kind of dodgy corpse shots as well you got to look out for, but you know, if you like this genre, you'll be fine with it. But yeah, I mean, The Man from Nowhere, I mean, I almost felt like I shouldn't have reviewed it because most people know of this film, but I rewatched it recently and I felt like reviewing it just in case those of you out there who like thrillers have not seen it, because if you haven't, it's considered like a contemporary classic of Korean cinema, so you really need to watch it if you haven't already. Available on a bunch of streaming sites as well as physical media, so check this out or watch it again if you haven't seen it in a while. And as always, I will see you next time.